Hello friends, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Our Life Beginnings and Always. It's currently 1:30 in the morning for me. I'm technically speaking not supposed to be playing this, but I want to play more. So here we are. Let's get into happiness. I know vaguely what this one is about, but I don't know the details. And I want to know more about it, right? Let's hop into it. The day and the week were nearing their end, and you were welcoming it in your own way, by lying sprawled out on your bed. It was quiet in your house, getting to that time of the night where you really should be sleeping. Yeah, but you didn't feel tired at all. You rolled onto your side. Outside, the last lit up window across the street blinked out, leaving the buildings on the block faceless silhouettes against the blue-black sky dotted by stars. Your phone came to life on the nightstand, a pale light cast on the ceiling of your room. Without looking, you threw your arm out behind yourself, groping around on the table until your phone was under your palm. At that point, you lifted it to your face, snorting once you saw the familiar name attached to a short message just reading, "Hey." Cove wasn't much for sleeping now either. As you made to reply, though, more and more texts came through in quick succession. Hey, you like doing things. Sure. You like doing things with me. Connotations, Cove. I mean, I think he understood. What I'm saying is that there are things you and I do and we like. Together, at the same time. Now that was eyebrow raising. You propped yourself up on one elbow, sitting upright against the headboard so you could text more comfortably. I kind of want to say I'm excited to see where this is going, but I also kind of want to say, wow, you've got it all figured out. The typing indicator dropped off, and a notable pause followed. You snickered into the palm of your hand. It wasn't hard to imagine Cove red-faced and hunched over his phone in the dark, eyebrows furrowed as he tried to think of how to respond to your teasing. But ultimately, he didn't even attempt to address it. For what I was saying. You're free for a while, right? I've got nothing big planned for the next few days, but that can change. Cool, I thought so. I was just making sure. Alright. You could almost hear Cove's intake of breath as he prepared for the next part, despite the conversation being text alone. The window of your messaging app might as well have been a screenshot. You were left to keep track of the passing seconds with the rising and falling cries of crickets outside. When your screen darkened from inactivity, you wondered if you should do something yourself. I feel like I could give him a little nudge. Take your time. That's something that I would say in real life, honestly. Almost immediately, he started typing like you'd only dreamt up a lull in the conversation. It'll be quick. Hold on. The next message came almost instantaneously. What if we did something new or sort of unexpected? Would you be okay with that? Something we haven't ever done together? You lowered your phone, leaning back against the headboard as you thought it over. The streets outside your window looked different at night, but you knew that if you were to wander out, there would be no chance of losing your way. There wasn't a single inch of your neighborhood that you didn't know by heart. And everywhere you looked, from the grassy hill behind your house to the shops by the beach, you could recall a time you'd been there with Cove, mostly just chatting as you walked together. You didn't mind everyday things like that, but as for something new or unexpected, sure. But also, what exactly do you have in mind? Cool. One by one, Cove began presenting his ideas, starting off with attending a play. We've watched TV together in movies, but real people performing in front of us. We've never done that. I'm not sure what plays exactly are on right now, but that adds to the unexpected factor. There was a slight pause before Cove moved on to the next plan, visiting an aquarium. That makes sense, right? We go to the beach and stuff, we're pretty close to the water. But going to the aquarium would be water in a whole new way. The third and last idea was one that was most out of the blue. Ice skating. I do not have the balance for that, but okay. Ice skating? It was a total wild card, as Cove was putting it, and the polar opposite of what you two normally did. However, it was fitting right in with the other options as something you had never done together. Let's say, if hypothetically someone wanted to surprise you with an unexpected outing, would that be okay? You couldn't help but smile fondly at that, wondering to yourself who that someone could be. Really? You said that doing anything with him was good. As long as we're together, I'm okay. Oh. Thank you. It was clear from the quickness of his reply and the following pause that you caught him off guard. He was temporarily left without anything to say. But eventually, he recovered. Could you still pick a favorite? You burst out laughing, forgetting for a second the time of night. It'd be my personal favorite, because I know that you'd really enjoy the aquarium. I would want to see it play. Personally, I'd see it play. You thought that was definitely something you and Cove should watch side by side at least once. Alright, cool. Don't think too hard about this talk. Okay, I have forgotten it. It doesn't mean anything. I promise not to try figuring it out. Good. There's nothing to figure out, of course. Good night, Kit. It's really late now. Yeah, it is. Nighty-night. And with that final send-off, you put your phone to sleep and lowered it with a sigh. You had no idea when Cove was going to invite you to the theater, but your mind was buzzing with all the possibilities the coming days might bring. Your phone went back to its place on the nightstand, and you resumed snuggling into the mattress, one hand thrown to the side and the other shoved under your pillow. Somewhere between this day and the next, you finally found yourself asleep. Good. The next morning, after washing up from breakfast, you had just climbed the stairs to your room, ready to tackle the day, when you heard the ringing of the doorbell. You turned towards the sound, angling your head in confusion. Was someone expecting a visitor today? Then again, you weren't even sure if anyone else was around, judging by the lack of footsteps you were hearing. You raced back downstairs to answer the door. As you pulled it open and saw who it was, you were only further confused. Cove Holden? Who would have guessed? He was standing there with an unsure look on his face at first, like he didn't know who would answer the door, but the moment he saw it was you, a shy grin spread across his face. He raised one hand and gave you a little wave. Surprise. This is a surprise. Don't you normally use the window? I didn't read the rest of them. Yeah. You found it funny how you'd grown up so used to hearing him tapping that glass pane, that showing up at your front door was what it took to get a reaction. Cove turned his head to the side with a considering lift of his eyebrows. I guess I do, but not today. I got you something. He slid his hand out from behind his back, holding it up in front of your face as he offered the present to you. Your eyes widened once you saw what it was. A new writing journal. You hadn't expected a gift at all, let alone something as thoughtful as this. Let me just turn the camera to my bookshelf over here where I have at least 200 of those. Yes, I collect them. Good. Taking one look at your face, no doubt a complicated mix of happiness and shock, Cove let out a laugh. Surprised again. really is. Suddenly, Cove raised his head, his eyes finding yours and startling you into stillness. Would you want to go to the theater with me? His voice was so soft and timid, you involuntarily held your breath as you listened. He was blushing, but he fixed you with a hopeful smile, still meeting your eyes. I thought maybe it'd be a fun trip to surprise you with. Yes. With his big question asked and accepted, Cove raised his gift towards you again, gesturing with his other hand for you to receive it officially. Was I not allowed until I answered that? You carefully took it from him. I'll put this bad boy somewhere safe, then we can get going. Cove had no problem with that. Still grinning, he stepped back, his body angling away as he waved a hand in the air. I'll get my car ready then. Meet me there. Okay. As soon as the door clicked shut, you dashed upstairs to your room, prepping a spot first for Cove's gift. Right there. Then, satisfied with your efforts, you grabbed your bag, tossing in whatever else you thought you needed for the outing, before heading back outside. I can't wait to tell my friends that out of every single gift that Cove could have gotten me. A writing journal? Are you kidding me? That's so real life it hurts me. Cove's old car was parked right in front of the house. You went straight to it, hopping into the shotgun seat. As you buckled yourself in, Cove leaned forward to watch you with an eager expression, his fingers tapping the dashboard to a lively sort of rhythm. He was ready to start, but trying to tone it down so you wouldn't feel too rushed. I'm glad we're doing this together. Me too. Once your seatbelt was secured, Cove checked his mirrors and made sure the street was clear before pulling away from the curb. And like that, the two of you began your trip. So when I looked it up, there were 2 shows that we could pick from around this time. One was a historical romance with nobility, fancy outfits, drama, and stuff. The other seems like a modern day story, something set near a lake and at a bed and breakfast with comedy. It's kind of wacky, I guess. What do you think? A comedy, bed and breakfast, modern day, or nobility, fancy outfits, drama, and stuff. Set near a lake at a bed and breakfast with comedy. Kind of wacky. I don't like the kind of wacky description, because kind of wacky makes it seem I don't know how to describe that. Different senses of humor and stuff. Like wackiness just to be wacky. Right? Comedy is one thing, but if you're just kind of being stupid to be stupid, that's something different. I guess I want to see the romance. Cool. I'm curious about what will go down. What do you think the costumes will look like? Already your thoughts were busy trying to guess the historical setting. I'm feeling some sort of like Shakespeare-esque thing, but I don't know what exactly. Cove hadn't given you much to work with at all. I don't know. Luckily, we're gonna find out soon. Yeah. I'm getting kind of excited. I wonder what it'll be like. I haven't seen a live play before. I have. Oh, cool. I have. And I liked it. Your eyes shone with delight, remembering the dazzling lights and the grand stage. The theater was a treat you certainly enjoyed. I guess fun fact about me, because I don't think it's gonna pop up in game. I used to act on stage, theater, play productions and stuff, so I like both watching and performing. Okay, the movie theater background. Interesting. The rest of the drive flew by, and soon enough you were at the theater with Cove by your side. Tickets in hand, you both went inside. Shuffling down the aisle, Cove found the right seats. You were getting settled when the lights began to dim. we made it just in time. Your voice came out in a whisper. Glancing at Cove, you saw him staring straight ahead with eyes growing wider with intrigue. Then the actors started coming out onto the stage. The show set the scene, focusing on a group of wealthy families and the web of drama they entangled themselves in. And yet, despite the tension and chaos, two lovers emerge. Okay, so we're watching Romeo and Juliet as well. The swift engagement drew nothing but disapproval from their friends and family. You expected that there would be several trials before the lovers could reach any kind of happy ending. Actually, it can't be, because we didn't say that we were watching a tragedy. We were just saying that we were watching a romance. I don't know. You became absorbed into the story and performances, and you weren't the only one. Much ado about nothing. That's not a tragedy, right? Bad things happen, but it's not a tragedy. During the touching scenes, you could hear... not in that way. You could hear quiet sniffling coming from the seat where your longtime neighbor was. When the play finally came to a close, the audience broke into applause. Cove clapped for the actors until the noise died down. Then he spoke for the first time since the event began. It's over. Nodding, you followed Cove out of the theater. The sun was hanging low in the sky. It's so much fun. I can't believe what a good time that was. I'm glad you picked this. And I know you like plays, but is there a reason you went with this out of the other ideas? I'm just curious. I just really wanted to see another play. I'm selfish. Oh, cool. You could tell Cole was feeling pretty pleased with himself by the way his eyebrows rose and his smile curved. One of his suggestions was something you wanted to do regardless, and he was considering that a success. But really, I might have to come back sometime to see the other one. Cove scratched at his cheek contemplatively. I sort of thought that it was going to be harder to keep up with the, what's the phrase? Suspension of disbelief? The actors were right there putting on a show. I thought it'd be too much to believe it was really happening. But I felt more into it than with a lot of the movies. I could totally picture the world they lived in. Amused, you nodded along and listened to Cove's animated commentary. I'm still thinking about it even though it's over. Imagine if that was us. You want the drama? Attending high society parties and living in grand mansions, we'd have to deal with the rich and powerful and the politics or whatever that went along with it. Our families would try to force us to follow certain paths, but we'd still find our own way to each other and the things we want to do. He had stars in his eyes as he fantasized about the events of the story. Okay, sure. The way he reimagined the story with you both at the center. I was just being okay, playing along, but a few quiet moments passed, and you noticed a distant look on Cove's face. He shook his head like he was trying to send a thought away. What is it? Trying to picture a completely new life in a new place actually feels kind of weird now that I'm doing it. I'm not exactly sure how to explain. It's exciting, but also sad. I'm thinking too seriously about this dumb idea, I guess. But if I don't remember anything from this world, then it would be pointless that I had a life before. And if it really did happen, I probably would be surrounded by totally new people. And I wouldn't have you with me anymore. Surprised, you sucked in a breath. Cove laughed shyly. The fun part of imagining it all was that you were there by default. Just getting to be somewhere else on my own wouldn't be nice, no matter how cool the place was. It's settled then. I'll just have to look for you if I wind up having another chance at life or magically end up in another world. I hope you'd try to find me too. Nervous, Cove's eyes didn't quite meet yours. His cheeks and ears were solidly red at this point. I'll see how it goes. I'd find you. It's obvious. No amount of space and time can stop us. Thank you, Kit. In that case, it'll work out after all. Definitely. He took a deep breath and stretched his arms high over his head. He then turned his head to your direction and pointed with his thumb to his car. We better get back to our real world now, huh? It's getting late and I think we're the only ones still out here. You spun around, getting a good look at your surroundings. Cove was right. All the other cars that were out here after the show ended were long gone. How did I miss that? It's suddenly dark too, by the way. Yeah, it is. Come on, let's go home. After that, you made your way into Cove's car. You set course for your neighborhood. Your legs felt stiff from standing still and talking for so long, but it was worth it. Away into the drive, Cove glanced towards your direction. You stretched your arms as you shifted in the seat, waiting patiently for him to say what was on his mind. So, I know this was unexpected, but thanks for coming along. I guess I'll say it really was. I mean, you kind of messed up the day before, but in general, with the mess up, surprise. Cove chuckled and shot you another quick look. Your smile widened, recognizing the question on his mind. A good, unexpected. Yeah? Cool. The drive continued in comfortable silence. Cove wore a content expression on his face that warmed your heart. Doing things like this with Cove made you happy. Your heart skipped a beat thinking about how mutual the feeling seemed to be. Watching the passing scenery out the window, you relaxed into the seat. The time sped by. It wasn't too long before Cove pulled into his driveway. Sighing happily, you got out of the car while Cove came around to where you were standing. He stood there for a moment, rolling a pebble under his shoe. I'll see you tomorrow. Counting on it. Thanks. After that, you and Cove parted ways for the rest of the day. Even when you fell back into your normal routine, your mind refused to stop buzzing with the memory of your little adventure. As you crawled into bed and closed your eyes, you were back in the best parts of the day. You hoped Cove's surprise would continue just a little bit longer and continue in your dreams. After breakfast the next morning, you were sitting with your moms and Liz. While you were mildly listening to the conversation, the side of your face squished into the palm of your hand. The doorbell rang. Oh, I'll get it. Mom passed by you to the front door. Your eyes lazily followed her, then you turned your attention to Ma and Liz. They were still lightheartedly chatting. You weren't sure about what. Your focus snapped back when your name was called from across the room. Hey, Kit, you have a guest. Be right there. On your way to the front door, Mom gave your shoulder a pat as she returned to the living room. When she moved by, you saw who was at the door. Cove, hold it! It was Cove again. A smile stretched out across his face the moment your eyes met. Hi, Cove, sweetie. Instantly, you looked over your shoulder to see Ma several feet away, but within eyeshot of the door. She waved. This is a good face on you. Good job, 10 out of 10. Let me just... Cool. When you faced Cove again, he was looking at the ground shyly. It reminded you of the last time you had seen him the night before. That was all the push you needed to step outside, closing the door behind you for some privacy. What do you have up your sleeve today? Crossing your arms, you leaned your back against the door. You already had a good feeling about where it was going. I'm glad you asked. Then Cove chuckled awkwardly. He didn't quite meet your eye as he pulled out another gift from behind his back. Surprise? Want to go to the aquarium with me? What? You blinked and then switched to staring at him in bewilderment. Cove's eyes narrowed conspiratorially. The real surprise was that I'm going to invite you to all three places. Well, now I know, and it's not a surprise anymore. You had one more you had to hold out for. You never had to choose only one. I just needed to make sure that they didn't sound completely terrible. I'm nervous for ice skating. Now that we can say it, now that it's like I can't spoil, but I know we're going three separate places, places. I'm nervous for ice skating. The longer Cove spoke, the quieter his voice became. He shyly scratched at the side of his cheek. And to check if you'd be free, so... Surprise again! I'm serious. I'm 100% serious. So, do you like what I got you? Cove nudged the present in his hands towards you, hoping that you'd take it. Until now, you hadn't completely registered it. Okay, it was a carefully chosen ukulele case. I do like it, thank you. Cove relaxed at that. He smiled warmly and accepted the gift. I mean, I assume that my ukulele has its own case, considering I based it off of my violin in real life, and the violin has a case, but depends, maybe it's a nicer case, who knows. Are you gonna accept the other part, too? The aquarium? Yes. I'm already excited about the aquarium. Let's get going. Elated, Cove bounced a bit on the toes of his feet. You could feel the happiness radiating off of him in waves. Thanks for coming. I'll be in the car. You can go get ready. Alright. You sped back inside and spotted your family still sitting around the table. They all turned and smiled at you. So, what's the plan for today? Cove invited me to go to the aquarium with him. Ma clapped her hands together happily. Her smile beamed. That sounds so fun. I hope you have a great time, Cove. I will. You grinned and looked over at Liz. She nodded, looking happy for you. It didn't take you long to get ready and dash out the front door. Cove was waiting for you, as promised, and you both set out for day 2 of his surprise outings. And this time, it actually was a surprise. You settled in fully for the trip out to the aquarium in the city. It'd be a bit of a drive, but you didn't mind. You made an attempt to start a conversation. It's kind of funny we've never done this before now. Why haven't we? Probably because I've never thought about going to the aquarium with anyone before this. What? Our local ocean enthusiast has never gone to the aquarium? Yeah, that's right. Never. And not just this specific one either. I haven't been to an aquarium, period. Wow. I've been to aquariums before. You had more experience with aquariums than Cove Holden. That simply sounded wrong. Okay, what is the story for this? Cove tapped the tips of his fingers against the steering wheel, his face scrunching in contemplation. When I was growing up, my dad did try to take me. I'd never been before because I was so little. I said no. Whenever he tried to talk about it, I'd tell my dad I'd rather go to the actual beach on my own. Or he could at least take me to the fish part of the pet store, but not the aquarium. Eventually, he didn't ask about it anymore. He must have figured I had something against it. You know what? Just thinking about it, I have only ever lived near really popular aquariums. Like, we've talked before in this series about how I used to live really close to the aquarium that winter. The dolphin was at. I still don't know whether or not Winter has died yet. It's been a while. But now, if you've ever seen the Tumblr post where they have like Depot's Hideaway in an aquarium, now I live near that aquarium. Like, isn't that fun that I went from Winter the dolphin to Depot? If you've never seen Depot's Hideaway or whatever it's called, it's like it's sponsored by Home Depot. And it's like this Nemo looking sign. But it's Depot, and it got really popular on Tumblr a few years ago. And then I went there to that aquarium, and I was like, oh my god, Depot. So, when he stopped mentioning the aquarium, I stopped thinking about it. It just never came back to my mind. His expression shifted to one of bemused confusion. The thing is, I don't know what I had against it, if I did have a problem. Maybe I didn't like the idea of seeing water I wasn't allowed to go in, or to meet fish I could never bring home. That sounds like the kind of thing little me might have gotten upset over. Or maybe I just wasn't okay with doing a new kind of trip. It'd be to someplace new and with only my dad. Mom wouldn't be there anymore. I guess that might have made it seem not worth doing right off the bat. That's 8-year-old me for you. Cove shook his head with a pained smile. Then his tone dropped to a distant whisper. It was only when thinking about stuff I could do with you that I finally remembered I could go to an aquarium. Oh. He pulled his mouth into a bent smile and straightened his shoulders. He didn't want to bring the mood down. It all worked out in the end, because I got to really surprise you with the news, huh? I guess, yeah. You totally got me there. Long game. It was a long game if I've ever seen one. The conversation continued on with idle chatter about what you'd do when you got there. Then the large, angular building decorated with ocean-themed cutouts came into view. You arrived at your destination. You hopped out of the car and headed over to the imposingly large guest entranceway. Cove's head swiveled around to let his curious eyes take in every view, and you weren't even inside yet. You could see the realization of what he'd been missing out on dawn on him in real time. Cove bounced on the balls of his feet as the two of you stood in line to get tickets. His excitement continued to build. Okay, oh my gosh. We even get a background for this? When you finally were face to face with the tanks, you could hear Cove quietly gasp from your side. He briskly took some large strides to get further into the room and to get closer to the glass barrier. There, he stood still. After taking a moment for himself, his face made me laugh. He whipped around to look at you. Cove was outright vibrating with excitement. His mouth opened in a large smile, but all that came out was tiny, squeaking giggles. It bubbled over into full-on giddy laughter before he was able to speak in earnest. Each word was full of joy. It's amazing. I love it here. Of course you do. There's no way someone like you would hate a place like this. He cheered back without hesitation. Yeah, the aquarium is great. The two of you wasted no time before rushing around the place. You went every which way across the aquarium. Cove was enthralled by each new sight. His eyes alight like a kid in a candy store, and a perpetual smile made its home on his face. No metaphorical stone was left unturned. He viewed all the tanks from his tallest of heights on tippy toes, as well as crouching as low to the floor as he could manage. Your exuberance was just as bright as his, buoyed further by how happy you were that he had found such happiness. He beamed. After making an entire trip through the whole building, you and Cove finally slowed the pace down. You had arrived back at the original viewing room. It was a good spot for a break. Cove stood quietly near the tank in almost the same spot as he had been when he first took in the view. Somehow, that moment already felt like a long time ago. You weren't sure if he was feeling the same way. Cove simply watched the watery world inside with an open fondness. He wouldn't get tired of that view ever. You were certain of that. You walked up to stand beside him, taking in the same otherworldly experience of having a sea right in front of you. Suddenly, Cove swallowed hard, your head tilted. He wasn't looking at you. His eyes were glued to the vast ocean view in front of him. But his bright red face reflected clearly in the floor-to-ceiling glass pane separating aquarium goers from the water. You couldn't understand. Nothing had happened. Then realization came. This was Cove. He was flustered because he was thinking about doing something. Cove always got that way when he was mentally building himself up. Take your time. You leaned against the hand railing with a smirk. You weren't going to take your gaze off of him even for a second. It was imperative that you didn't miss any of this, whatever it was. So, there's a lot of fish in here, huh? That's right, good job! His mouth clamped shut after those vague, stuttered words. You could feel tension growing. After a breathless pause, he spoke again. You know, if you were a fish, you'd be an angelfish because you're an angel. Cove pressed his forehead against the glass with his eyes wide and gazed down as he fervently refused to even peek at what reaction you might be giving. He was blushing wildly, feeling unparalleled embarrassment over the line he had just dropped. It was rough, but, I guess I'll just smile. He was too cute. It was unreal. What does that mean? You had plenty of fish name knowledge up your sleeve to use for this, too. I can't think of any other ones that go really good like that. My first one was like lionfish, and that's rawr. I don't know. I know a few fish, though. Well, if you were a fish, you'd be a diamond tetra, because you're a treasure. A clownfish. Some of these? I like this one. This one's cute. But also a teardrop butterfly fish because you cry a lot. Like, I could be mean to him. This one's cute though. I'm choosing it just cause. Okay. Oh. He continued to speak after his initial exclamation, but it was so mumbled you weren't sure what it was. Cove had completely lost control of the conversation that he started, and he didn't know what to do with that. Ultimately, he settled for turning his burning face away from you even more, as well as covering a cheek with a hand for good measure. Leaving him speechless had you feeling rather pleased. After that, Cove wanted to go around the aquarium again. He hoped to let it all sink in at a more leisurely pace while you were here. Plus, he desperately wanted more time to settle down after his latest big attempt at flirting. The two of you began your second loop down the paths. It took no time at all to become absorbed in the incredible sea life once more. There wasn't nearly enough time in a single day to satisfy Cove's desire to exist inside of the aquarium, but the day did have to end eventually. Despite obviously wanting to linger longer, Cove left the building with a skip in his step. It had been a good trip. The two of you shut the doors of Cove's car behind you as you took your usual seats. The clicking of seatbelts punctuated the end of the adventure. I would absolutely do that again. No kidding. Cove chuckled as he pulled the car out of the parking spot, spirits still as high as ever. The car ride home went by far too fast. You and Cove were in good spirits and spent the ride chatting and laughing, bouncing around various topics. But you didn't ask the question that sat all day in the back of your mind. Why was Cove doing all this in the first place? Again, you both parted ways for the night in the neighborhood street. You watched Cove head inside with a quick wave. You were halfway to your own house when a familiar voice called out to you, turning on all of your heels. Why do I have so many? You spotted Mr. Holden. He lightly jogged over to talk. You gonna give me more money? Hey, how are you? I'm good. Great, I was just getting home from work. What are you up to? Or rather, what were you up to today? Me and Cove went to the aquarium. You did, huh? Sounds fun. It was fun, and it was also a surprise, which is weird since usually me and Cove not hanging out would be what sounds surprising. Crossing your arms, you gave a quick laugh. Mr. Holden frowned. He rubbed the back of his neck and studied you for several silent moments. Right, so... Kit, what is going on there? Something's going on, isn't it? Huh? What makes you ask? That's not a problem, right? I'll answer your question if you answer mine. Deal? That was Mr. Holden, always trying to make deals with you. But you could deal with it. Alright, you have yourself a deal. You held out a hand to make it official. I honestly was about to go like this as I said it. Mr. Holden's smile widened as he reached out and shook it. What's the story? The truth is, Cove's been doing a lot for me lately. Way more than usual. For 2 days in a row now, he's planned special outings and gifts, too. I don't know why. Cove's father nodded contemplatively. He accepted the situation easily. That actually makes a lot of sense, considering... Maybe we should know before we go into this that I know spoilers about this specific conversation. Another random thing I know about this event. Considering there's a sharp edge to your voice and it drove you to take a step forward, you needed to know. You have to tell me. There was a pause. He was unsure of what to say next, or how to phrase it, at least. Honestly, I've been the littlest bit worried about Cove lately. He's gotten really up in his head about something. But it's not exactly a bad thing. It's tough to know how to even bring it up. I'm not sure if I should try to have a talk about it. The longer he spoke, the wider your eyes grew with concern. There was more happening than a few meaningless hangouts. It's okay. He raised his hands in a calming motion when he noticed your reaction. Let me explain. I noticed Cove's been getting thought and lost more often recently, and he sometimes has his laptop out in the living room. He leaves it laying around on the couch or puts it on the coffee table. I have a clear view of it from there, and I can obviously see him looking stuff up on it. Cove keeps searching one phrase and different wordings of it too, and he'll spend ages clicking through the linked results. The line is, how do you make someone happy? Just that. Again and again. I will teach him how to search things up better, because boy, you do not just look up sentences, you look up keywords, my dude. Do you know nothing? You had to consciously close your mouth after that. You didn't know what to even say after hearing that revelation. Mr. Holden gently beamed. Isn't he such a good kid? He continued, but his tone was rueful. Unfortunately, I can relate all too well to that conundrum. Who am I to judge, right? Mr. Holden shrugged in an exaggerated way to lighten the mood back up. Before, I was thinking Cove might have gotten into a fight with somebody. Now it sounds like I was way off the mark. Cove clearly has other plans on the brain. I'm even more confused on whether this is something I should get into or not. You know, actually, I was wondering if you could have a little chat with him about what's going on. It sounds like you're at the core of Cove's sudden study sessions, so he might feel more at ease talking about it, or more embarrassed, but he'd still probably do it. I would really appreciate it. Your gaze trailed over to the Holden residence. Mr. Holden made a very good point, you had to admit. I'll do it. Thanks. You're also a really good kid. Thank you. You shook your head with a smile and started walking towards where Cove went. Oh, I'm doing it right now? After a few steps, you realized that Mr. Holden wasn't following. You glanced back at him. I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit, to make sure you have some space to talk without a parent in the way. The door is probably unlocked, so go right in. Oh, okay. We're having this conversation right now. Okay. But you hesitated for a moment. Mr. Holden's smile faded. Thanks for talking with me. This has been on my mind too, and I think it'll be good to ask Cove if everything's okay. Agreed. It'll all shake out right in the end, I'm sure. Mr. Holden grew much happier than he was a moment ago. Feeling ready, you turned right around and went into the house. Hey, Cove was sitting on the couch with his aforementioned laptop open. He peeked up at you with a puzzled look, and then it melted into a smile. I thought you were my dad. Did you forget something? I hope you're not too disappointed. It's just me, instead of your dad. As your teasing words sank in, you watched a smirk grow across his face. You crossed your arms and grinned. No way. Why are you here? Oh, cautiously, lightheartedly, or bluntly? I need to know what the specific sentences I'm saying are, because I'm between lightheartedly and bluntly. What's lighthearted? Can we talk? Nothing awful. I'm just looking. What's going on? I was talking to your dad and he's been noticing this stuff. Okay. That felt pretty damn blunt to me. But what is this one? We need to talk about something. Okay. Is everything okay? You tell me. That. Okay. I'll go lighthearted. So continuing on, I'll read it for real this time. Can we talk? Nothing awful, it's just a thing. Huh? Okay. Cove closed his laptop and laid it on the couch cushion next to him. He got up, shuffled past the coffee table, and stopped right in front of you. Is everything alright? Yeah, just what's going on, Cove? I was talking to your dad and he's been noticing some stuff. Apparently, you've been obsessively looking up how to make someone happy. Is there a reason for that? He noticed that. Are you mad? No, I guess I really was distracted. I didn't think people around would actually be paying attention or taking notes of things. He chuckled awkwardly at himself. Cove, will you tell me why you felt like doing that so much? Kit. Cove looked at you with large, earnest eyes. I did it because I want you to be happy. You're killing me, Cove Holton. This one. I didn't read. You don't have to do some big, expensive surprise for that. You can just be yourself. Cove stuttered. This is my favorite face so far at this age. Cove stuttered out another laugh, and then the tension in his shoulders eased. Thank you for thinking that. For telling me? I don't know. He was completely frazzled on what to say. His rambling put a grin to your face. His gaze fell to the floor, and he defaulted to rubbing his arm. I wasn't trying to make you or Dad concerned. I didn't want to upset anyone. Sorry. I'm definitely not upset. Your dad isn't either. Cove nodded, but he was still lost in thought. What made you start doing this all of a sudden? Did I do something? No. Then what happened? I don't know. With a deep frown, Cove looked back at you and repeated the phrase. Each time the inflection was different, like he intended to say something different, but was coming up with the same non-reply. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know anything. He ran a hand through his hair, trying to understand his own motivations. I guess maybe with everything that's been happening and everything that's coming soon, it just kind of hit me that we're neighbors. You can tell when I read the end of a sentence by when I laugh during the sentence. I keep noticing that during this episode of like me laughing and then just reading through what I'm laughing about. A quick snort of air came out of your nose from his conclusion. Yeah. I mean, you lived right across the street from me for 10 years. The only other kid who grew up in this whole neighborhood is your older sister. His weak smile bent. And then there's our parents. They sure were putting in the effort for the two of us to get to know each other. Yeah. Both physically and monetarily. Cove shook his head with a laugh. His gaze was far away as he nostalgically reflected on the history you had. Basically, everything in our lives was set up for us to be together. It was always effortless. And why not? It practically went without saying that we'd be around each other, but it won't be like that forever. Our parents can't always be there to arrange things. We can't live in the little world of this street forever. Do I even know how to make it work when I don't have every advantage possible? I've made you happy in the past, but could I keep doing it? What even is it I do that makes you happy? Cove started to run a hand through his hair again, but he stopped partway through. He looked at you earnestly. It was like breathing. When you're just going through life, you do what you're doing without even thinking. And then something reminds you that you're breathing, and you become way more conscious of it. Don't do that to me. Being with you is the same. I do what I normally do without pondering deeply on it. But now all this stuff made me start thinking about it. Then I couldn't stop thinking about it. I felt like I needed to try harder, to make an effort. For you, for the relationship we had. I had to, and, well, that's what I did. Cove scratched the back of his neck. He looked sheepish now. It seemed like such a good idea in my head. It made complete sense, but maybe it was dumb. I like my options here. I can punch him. I can hug him. I can just start bawling. I guess punch him? Hey. He reflexively held his arm where your knuckles hit. He cracked a smile, and it only grew as he felt emotions. Period. Stepping back, he took a deep breath. Cove shifted how he was standing and watched you bashfully. You don't have to worry about any of that. You could feel it down in your bones that you were right. Cove. We're besties, bro. How much other people or circumstances bring us together wouldn't change that. If I didn't like you or if you didn't like me, we never could have gotten close like this. We chose each other. There was a pause where neither of you were certain who was going to speak next. Cove sniffled. Thank you, Kit. Thanks for looking out for me, even when I didn't even notice I was doing something worth checking in on. You're amazing. Someone has to do it. Cove narrowed his eyes to appear annoyed, but there was no amount of pretending that was going to extinguish the happy look on his face. Your mouth curled into a smirk. Cove chuckled. Now that everything was out in the open, his words were lighter. I gotta thank my dad, too. I can always count on him to be around. I have such good people in my life. He smiled softly. Cove withdrew a bit, looking shy. Can I still show up tomorrow and invite you on the last surprise outing? Yeah, I'll see you first thing in the morning. Cove brightened hearing that from you. Grinning ear to ear, you honestly couldn't think of anything better than seeing the earnest look in his eyes. He simply wanted to spend time having fun with you. I can't wait. Me neither. Alright, you should probably go home, huh? It's getting late and you'll need your rest. He looked at you. Hold on. Read that again. Yeah? Baxter and I would get along so well, is what I'm saying. He looked at you, attempting to feign an innocent expression. I mean, what if something just happens to happen tomorrow? You laughed as Cove grinned, acknowledging his poor attempt at subterfuge. Good night, Kit. Good night. Try not to miss me too much. You headed to the front door, waving as Cove saw you out. When you walked out into the street, you noticed that Mr. Holden was still standing out there. He looked up at the sound of the door closing behind you, his phone in hand, and smiled as he sized up the situation. You were in there a while. I hope that's good news. Everything is fantastic, I guess. Great. Glad to hear it. Everything truly resolved, you exchanged goodnight wishes with Mr. Holden before continuing the very brief trip home. Not wishing to disturb anyone, you quietly snuck inside and gently pushed the door closed behind you. As it clicked into place with a minimum of fuss, you let out a sigh. Your mind buzzed as you climbed the steps to your room. Cove had done so much just to make you happy, and you knew he'd be back tomorrow with another big surprise. Okay, you were determined to fully appreciate. You wanted to prepare him a gift. You wanted to make him surprised. Or you wanted to surprise him and have a gift. I don't want to do a change of plans, so neither one of these. Listen, I'm just here to appreciate the effort. It is the night before. Obviously, he has something planned. I'm gonna let him keep it. Cove had gone to blatantly clear lengths putting his grand scheme together, from thinking up ideas of activities to do, right down to making all the arrangements necessary so it could come to fruition. Imagining him undertaking all that on your behalf made your heart swell. You felt so cherished. The best way to repay him for that feeling was to ensure he knew exactly how much it meant to you. It was a little funny that Cove was going through so much trouble to make you happy, and you were trying to make him happy in turn by showing him, to the best of your ability, that you were happy. But it was also heartwarming as an example of how you sought to bring joy to each other. Cove was working so hard to make you happy. You dearly wanted your friend to be happy too. You could only hope your efforts would work as well for him as his plans were working for you. You were up early the next day, ready and waiting for Cove's inevitable appearance. Your ears were perked, listening for the doorbell. But instead, what you heard was a familiar rapping on the window pane. I was going to joke, what if he comes through the window today? There was no need to look to know who it was. Only one visitor used your window as his personal entranceway. Getting up, you headed over to let him in. You gazed into your neighbor's face as you unfastened the window, opening it wide. He smiled at you, still crouched on the window ledge. Tired of using the front door already? Cove's laugh was as airy as the cotton candy sold on the boardwalk. He was in good spirits. Surprise. I'm really keeping you on your toes. What will I do next? He waggled his eyebrows at the joke as you stepped back to let him enter the room. Today, he clambered through with extra difficulty thanks to the object he was clutching securely. You guessed it was another gift. I will wait. Sure, he'd know that you'd seen it and probably reached your own conclusions, but he worked hard on his surprises. You wanted to play along. Exactly. Cove smiled sheepishly as he held out the present to you. With a bit of flair, Cove clinked together 2 mugs like he was giving a toast. Both cups were stamped with the Sunset Bird town symbol. One for you and one for me. I thought it'd be pretty fitting with us sticking it out here for a little while longer. His eyes were trained on you, searching for your emotion on it. I hope you like it. Literally what I just did. Only Cove would come up with a gift like that at a time like this. He simply grinned at you, as if knowing what you were thinking. Thank you. Then you accepted the thoughtful present into your own grasp. Only once he transferred ownership and cemented it with your approval did Cove straighten up and pull himself together. Okay, well, would it be alright for me to take you out today? We could, I don't know, go ice skating? He smirked, already anticipating that you'd say yes. Alright, but you're lucky I've got time for you in my busy schedule. His expression brightened further. That was exactly what he had hoped for. Thanks, Kit. You were glad to see how happy your acceptance had made him. Cove offered you his hand. You took his hand in yours, palm to palm. Cove squeezed your hand before heading out the door, guiding you along. Hand in hand, you wove down the stairs together, out of the house and into the neighborhood. I hope you know, if you're expecting me to ice skate, it's gonna be very slow. And you're not letting go of that hand, ever. Also, you're going to keep me upright the entire time. It's all going to be on you. Cove's car was parked nearby. He unlocked it, allowing you to reach your regular spot in the passenger seat. Cove hopped into the driver's seat, beaming broadly as he got ready to go. He set off, beginning your trip to the third and final activity of Cove's grand happiness plan. Now that you were sitting down for the drive, it felt like a good moment to regain your bearings. You shrugged your pack onto your lap and began thumbing through your things to make sure that in your hurry to leave, you hadn't forgotten anything important. You were dressed more warmly, but in the meantime, you were left to sweat under the sweltering heat of the sun. He zipped it closed again, and Cove began to speak, raising his voice to be heard over the ambient noise of the car ride. So, ice skating. This is gonna be crazy. Having fun with water that's frozen? Unheard of. He chuckled at his own joke, and you shook your head at him, though you couldn't help grinning at his silly comment. Who knows? Maybe in colder places it's the opposite that's weird. As he looked at him, you caught a glimpse of the back seat. It was empty. Which wouldn't be strange any other day. You didn't bring a jacket? No. You know I hate extra layers, and there aren't any parents around to force me to do it now. Damn, I like that you don't wear a lot of layers too. Yeah, your parents can't tell you what to do, you're a big boy. Cove gave you a brief glance, smiling. I mean, you're gonna be, a little regretful of that later, but thanks for understanding. You laid your arm against the window, the scenery outside passing by in a blur, until finally you arrived at the ice skating rink. The two of you grabbed your things and got out of the car. A wave of heat so thick it felt like you were swimming in it hit you as soon as you set foot into the sun-hot asphalt of the parking lot. Cove fell in step next to you, dragging the back of his arm across his face. You and Cove exchanged looks. Well, here we are, his tilted smile seemed to say. The skating rink was a large building of glass and concrete, with its name plastered in simple white letters above its entrance. The nondescript flat rooftop-style architecture reminded you a bit of the local mall. Okay. Alright. You went in. As the door slid shut behind you, you heard Cove's sharp intake of breath. You glanced over at him, seeing the stunned look on his face, his lips drawn tight in a frown. It's really cold in here. I know. Yeah, so, like ice, believe it or not, it needs to be cold in order not to melt. Otherwise, this would be a big swimming pool, right? Guess you'll have to change your name from Cove to Cold. No. Of course it's cold. What else did you expect from an ice skating rink? I don't know. I've only ever seen snow on TV. Cove had his bottom lip stuck out and his arms wrapped around himself as he whined impudently. How about you? How are you feeling? I dressed for the weather. I'm feeling fine. There was no denying that the building was chilly, but it was a refreshing change compared to the sweltering heat of the parking lot. He laughed breathily. That's good. Your neighbor shuddered dramatically, almost retracting his head into his shirt in his renewed effort to keep warm. I'll do it. I'll do it. You took a step towards him and wrapped him up in what you hoped would eventually become a warm embrace. For a second, his body went even more rigid, but he quickly relaxed and gave you a self-conscious smile. Thanks, Kit. See if you feel like thanking me after I force you to rent skates like this. His quiet laugh shook through his abdomen. You felt it on the side of your body right before he put his arm around your waist and pressed you closer. Okay, that's a little bit too much. An unspoken sign that he had no problem with. Like this, the two of you ambled over to the rental counter together, a slightly awkward process that had you unsure if you were going forward or sideways. The clerk ended up giving you two funny looks over the top of her glasses as you went through the process of paying for admission and finding skates in your shoe size. But through it all, Cove didn't shiver once. I guess that's good. Eventually, you had your skates. It was a particularly well-worn set. Still sturdy, but where it had once been blue, it was now faded, and where it had once been white was now closer to tan. With some time and a low bench, you both were set up in the rented shoes and now stood by the opening to the rink. It was an oblong shape, surrounded by a paneled wall with rails. You were a little amused to see that there were others dressed in t-shirts and shorts, and you turned to Cove to point it out. The answering laugh that came sounded a little distracted. Well, here we go. Tentatively, he took one step out onto the ice. The series of movements that followed were reminiscent of a jack-in-the-box swinging back and forth on its spring. You thought you might laugh, but it died in your throat when, for one heart-lurching second, Cove's upper body tipped forward at a 90-degree angle. His hand shot out, slapping against the ledge running along the plexiglass panels on the side of the rink. A relieved sigh left both him and you. He was mumbling to himself as he craned his head back. He must have caught the alarm on your face because he gave you a smile as shaky as his footing. I'll make it work. It was fun to see Cove's first time trying it, but you'd done it before without him. You came forward to join him, and you barely moved a foot before needing to grab the side. No, I'm bad at it. With your hands splayed out against the railing, you searched Cove's face and found nothing but an understanding smile there. We'll both work on it? We could get little things. Yeah. It's kind of amazing we're seriously ice skating right now. Well, I mean, but this is what we decided to do. I should stop being surprised over everything. Let's skate. Let's skate. The two of you developed a cautious rhythm, drawing long, slow circles around the edge of the rink, side by side. Neither of you were experts. In fact, it was hard to tell who was worse. There were no complaints from either party when the pace was kept slow, or even stopped entirely whenever one of you needed to grab onto the edge again. Despite how ungraceful of a pair you were, it was fun. White puffs of air released from you and Cove as you laughed and cheered each other on for the smallest achievement. There were also still plenty of moments spent clinging onto each other for added warmth against the unrelenting chill of the space. The hours slid right past you, and just like that, it was suddenly time to call it a day. After returning the borrowed skates, Cove and you ventured back out into the California air. Even though the sun was almost behind the horizon, it was still palpably warmer than inside the rink. Cove rushed over to his car, his shivering hand clutched to yours. You let him pull you forward in his mad dash to the vehicle. Doors were opened and closed, seats were taken, the engine switched on, and the heat turned to the max. At that, Cove finally relaxed. Your foray into the freezing cold had ended, and nicely at that. On the return leg of the journey, you felt Cove lapse deep into a world of thought. Typically, even when the conversation was exhausted, his eyes would flick to you occasionally, and you'd exchange small smiles and other such gestures. This time, his focus was split purely between the road and the recesses of his mind. But as there was no sign of trouble on his features, you were happy to let him mull it over. Whatever he needed in peace. The trip drifted by in a comfortable silence. Before long, you were back in the neighborhood. You each left to your respective sides, and Cove stepped around the vehicle to stand with you. Wordlessly, he gestured to your home. He was intending to take you there. Perhaps he felt the trip wasn't truly over until you were literally inside your house. You contently continued to go with Cove on his whims as you went inside. Once under the light of your living room lamps, his eyes locked onto yours. Thank you, Kit. I know all of this was a lot, but I really did have so much fun. He grinned in an almost conspiratorial way. We really did it, this whole entire dumb plan of mine. I was happy it all became a reality. I hope you're happy, too. I am. The smile he wore was small, even restrained compared to some of the grins he flashed earlier, but it was imbued with a calm, comforting contentment. In this moment, he was as joyful as you'd ever seen him. His next words escaped in a whisper. Excuse me, sir. No one makes me feel the way you do. But he moved the conversation along before he had a chance to react to that admission. It had to be intentional. Kit, could I ask you to go along with one more surprise? His voice was gentle, even as he implored you for a little more. The question itself was a surprise. Another? You could hardly believe that there was even more hidden up his sleeve. Cove chuckled quietly, nodding his head ever so slightly. A new one. I think I don't want to go home already, not yet. And going back to one of our usual spots sounds fantastic after all this stuff we went through. I can do that. Let's stay together. Not that an offer like that coming from you counts as a surprise, but it's the thought that counts. You smirked at him. Yeah, you're right. I'm bad at surprises. What a surprise. The two of you laughed together over the silliness of this entire mini-adventure Cove had concocted. Thanks for saying yes, anyway. You walked down your usual path, side by side. You trodden the same path many times. By all rights, the novelty should have been long gone, but you found fulfillment in every step you took. You were sure you always would, with Cove supporting you along the way. Whether he was near or far, it didn't matter in the end. He would always be there for you. With this plan of Cove's drawing to a close, you might have expected to feel a little wistful. It had been an exciting few days, but there was no need to yearn for what had gone. After all, you knew that the two of you would always find new ways to bring a smile to each other's faces. But you both did, and you were looking forward to new surprises already. Okay. Like I said, I knew a little bit into that, but I didn't really know, like, the full story. Interesting. Okay. But I had a lot of fun with that, and the only thing that we have now to do is end the summer. I'm going to do that in a different episode, though, because this one is currently an hour and 15 minutes long, and also it's 2:40 a.m. But I'm having a lot of fun with this, and I hope that you are too. We just have step 4 left until we are done with the series, and I'm excited to see what happens in step 4. Thank you for watching this episode. I hope you enjoy it, and I will see you next time for the end of this summer.